Right now on the National Weather Desk, another atmospheric river targets California. Heavy rain, snow, and floods possible.
This is a moisture plume that comes up from the ocean.
While the relentless rain takes a toll on California's crumbling coastline.
It's even more noticeable than in years past.
Can some people really tell when a storm is coming through joint pain?
Whenever it starts aching, I know something is getting ready to change.
On this Daytona 500 weekend, you'll hear from the man known as NASCAR's unofficial meteorologist.
My goal is not to hurt the sport, but to make sure fans are prepared and have a good time.
And why the coldest time of the day is actually first thing in the morning.
From our nation's capital, this is the National Weather Desk.
Good morning and welcome to the National Weather Desk. I'm Amira David. Another atmospheric river has California in its sights, just like the two that hit the state earlier this month. By early next week, the system could dump another foot of rain in some places with multiple feet of snow in the mountains. Bakersfield meteorologist Miles Musio is tracking the storm for us this morning.
We have what would be by count the fourth significant atmospheric river coming up. We're going to call it the Pineapple Express here. Why? Because here's Hawaii and here is that moisture. Enough water is contained in these atmospheric rivers that would fill the Amazon River. And all of this moisture is moving up. It's going to be channeled by another low pressure system right up here to California. Going to be kissing California right there, kind of a wet kiss right here in the San Francisco area. Then it's going to kind of pivot around across the Channel Islands, and we're going to be seeing a lot of moisture going into late Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday and Wednesday. So here comes the moisture, and you can see how much rain is going to be falling here. The mountains kind of squeeze that moisture out, kind of enhance it. And so the oranges and the yellows, that would be 3-4 inches of rain from Santa Barbara all around San Luis Obispo, Point Conception. Up in the mountains here, the High Sierra, this is the liquid equivalent, which will turn into multiple feet of snow in the higher elevations with high snow levels there. And up here in the Redding Red Bluff area, it looks like maybe 6-7 inches of rain. So a lot of rain coming from this latest atmospheric river. It's one of the reasons it's been so wet this year.
The Pacific Ocean has been pounding California's central coast this winter, and now many areas of the coast are crumbling. As John Palmenteri reports, residents say they've watched the waves wallop everything from seawalls to coastal cliffs.
It feels to me like it's even more noticeable than in years past.
And most recently, this area along Channel Drive has had a facelift. The powerful waves have scoured away the sand in many locations where old oil well caps, some of them very large, are now exposed when they are normally covered.
It's especially shocking just in the last couple of weeks. Yeah, then there's literally no sand.
Along Shoreline Park above Ledbetter Beach, one of the hills has collapsed. It's an area that's geologically uncertain, not just for those walking on the top side, but also if you're too close along the base of the cliffs.
They warn people, don't sit underneath those cliffs.
And more than one area of Shoreline Park has had its problems. Signs are posted, but curious passerbys often get close enough to look over to see what's missing. And in Isla Vista, we've seen a balcony collapse when the bluffs below broke off. This week, we learned 2 buildings have been red tagged, and others are in line for a major reconstruction project when the students are gone for the summer. With more harsh weather coming, it'll also put demands on public works, parks, and waterfront crews to monitor new dangers and clean up the expected ongoing damages.
Well, check out this video from Kalamazoo, Michigan. You can see a school bus driver struggling to get up a hill following a snowfall. Meteorologist Jeff Porter watched and recorded as the bus kept sliding and was unable to get any traction, let alone make any progress. Finally, the driver decided it was best to put the bus into reverse and go back down the road. Well, Tuesday's storm dumped plenty of snow in Massachusetts, and now we are hearing about multiple reports of ice falling from the Cape's bridges. Ted Wayman has more.
Next thing you know, bam, loud, abrasive, and, I didn't know what hit me.
A large chunk of ice hit Jake Ramey's truck as he drove off Cape while on the Bourne Bridge.
My first thought was that it was actually a steel structure or some piece of equipment from the bridge.
Lucky for Jake, it was just ice, but big enough to smash the windshield and tear off the truck's side view mirror.
Thankfully, I wasn't bleeding, and that was when I realized I was going to be okay.
On Thursday, this Hyundai sedan drove over the Sagamore Bridge when a chunk of ice smashed its front windshield.
A black Hyundai Kona came over the Sagamore and ice debris fell from the bridge and shattered his windshield.
Two different bridges, two smashed windshields, all coming from ice chunks on those spans. No serious injuries, but plenty of gratitude.
You feel lucky?
I feel very lucky. I feel blessed.
In Wisconsin, it's a snow drought that's causing concern. Local farmers say a lack of precipitation could negatively impact crops going into the growing season. Meteorologist Christian Palacio has more.
With the below-average precipitation in recent weeks, farmers are paying close attention to the weather outlook in the coming weeks.
We just haven't been getting the snowfall and the snowpack that's expected, especially in northeastern Wisconsin.
Chris Clark is part of the nutrient and pest management team with the University of Wisconsin Extension. She says farmers like to see around 4 to 6 inches of snowpack through the winter months starting in late November.
That's really good because it's just like you and I wearing a jacket out here today. It insulates the crop.
Farmers have noticed that their swampy areas, creeks, and ponds are lacking in moisture or have lower water levels. And with below average snow for this time of year, snowmelt won't provide much moisture-rich soil heading into spring.
We were really wet last spring, and we had a really good late snowfall that's saturated into the ground. This year, if we don't get some of those spring weather events, the farmers are not starting with that bank of moisture like we had last year.
Clark says there are gaps within the state that lack specific weather information, including rain and snow accumulation. This can lead to challenges when it comes to drawing the maps for the drought monitor.
There's a group of citizen scientists that are called Coco Rejas. It's the community of hail rain observations. And it's really simple to become a part of this. They do require you to use an official rain gauge. That just creates consistency between all of the observers.
We'll have to see if the upcoming weeks provide an adequate amount of precipitation ahead of the growing season.
Louisiana's wetlands are facing a looming ecosystem collapse. A new study published just Thursday found a rapid rise in sea levels that has left nearly 90% of the state's coastal wetlands in a current or expected state of drowning. That means the seas are rising faster than wetlands can grow. Those wetlands serve as a natural barrier protecting the state from hurricanes and other storms. The seas in the area have risen 0.4 of an inch a year since the year 2010. The Great American Race, just 2 days away now. The big question, will Mother Nature cooperate with the Daytona 500? Meteorologist Dave Dierks is here with the race's weekend forecast.
Speed Week continues at Daytona International Speedway, and the weather has been real nice and will continue so on Thursday and Friday with partly sunny skies. Temperatures will reach the 70s. Rain is going to be moving in this weekend, and it will be staying on the cool side. Could be locally heavy on Saturday, and for the big race on Sunday, northerly winds will be turning gusty, holding highs only in the low 60s with some occasional showers. Weather extremes, I guess, not all that uncommon. In fact, back in 1975, the Daytona 500 had a high temperature of nearly 85 degrees. Winner, Benny Parsons, but the other end of the spectrum, it can be cool as well. 1967, the temperature started out at 28 in the Daytona area and a high only of 48. And the winner of the race, Mario Andretti.
And with President's Day weekend here, let's check in on the forecast in cities connected to our commanders-in-chief. We start in Washington, D.C., named for our first president. Today will be cloudy with a high of 47, but 2 to 4 inches of snow expected to fall overnight into tomorrow morning. Abe Lincoln lived in Springfield, Illinois for many years, and there it is snowing right now. They're expecting 2 to 4 inches in all with a high of just 32 degrees. Meantime, Macon, Georgia, about 90 minutes from Plains, the longtime home of Jimmy Carter, they will see plenty of sunshine today with afternoon temperatures soaring into the upper 60s. And Cedar Rapids is about 30 miles from West Branch, the birthplace of Herbert Hoover, the only president born in Iowa. And they're looking at scattered snow today with highs in the 20s. Coming up on the National Weather Desk, we return to the Daytona 500 and speak to an unofficial NASCAR meteorologist about what goes into forecasting car races. Plus, we'll look at the relationship between joint pain and the weather.
I'm meteorologist Charlie Lopresti with a look at the Northeast. We have a little round of snow moving through overnight, particularly in northern New England and eastern parts of Massachusetts. Those of you early in the day tomorrow that have some snow will be primarily confined to northern parts of New England from New Hampshire to Maine. While most of the Northeast sees some developing sun, the wind picks up on our Friday. The afternoon will feature northwest winds gusting over 30 miles per hour. Highs will be in the 30s. Another round of snow moves into southern zones on Saturday.
I'm Chief Meteorologist Gerard Jabali. Here's a look at the Mid-Atlantic region. We are watching for two systems to come through. The first will just bring some sprinkles as we move through the day, but as we get into Friday and Saturday, better chances for snowfall as the system goes by. 1 to 3 inches of snowfall, relatively speaking, across the Delmarva region. But as we get into Saturday, at least it'll clear out, and what we have on the ground should melt away off the roads pretty quickly. It's going to be a cold night overnight on Saturday night into your Sunday morning, though.
I'm meteorologist Charlotte Carl. We are going to have lots of clouds for your Friday. We are going to see some effects of a front start to move into the northwestern part of our area and the Gulf Coast as rain will continue throughout Saturday into Sunday morning. Temperatures to start off your Friday cooler along the northern part of our area. We have 30s, 43 in Atlanta, 50s along the Gulf Coast, and we creep into the mid to upper 60s in South Florida.
You are watching the National Weather Desk.
When meteorologist Brian Newdorf started forecasting for NASCAR races years ago on Twitter, he had no idea how popular it would become with fans. His account, NASCAR Weatherman, now has over 42,000 followers. With the Daytona 500 coming up on Sunday, Emily Gracie sat down with him to find out what's involved in race forecasting.
The worst, the weather situation you're going to have to deal with for NASCAR, genuinely speaking, is going to be the rain, maybe some heat, but I haven't had too many problems, but it's generally rain. Now, Martinsville in the March, yeah, we had a snow situation. They actually canceled the race because they got so much snow. You know, generally it's rain that's going to cause a problem to at least cancel or postpone a race or the threat of severe weather.
That's got to be like a much bigger risk when you have any sort of severe weather going on, that the fans are actually at risk, and not just in the stadium, but like going out to their cars. It takes time to get everybody kind of cleared out.
My goal is not to hurt the sport, but to make sure fans are prepared and have a good time. I want them to have a great weekend. I want them to have a good time. I want them to be prepared so that they'll come back and enjoy the sport that we all love.
Other sports have on staff meteorologists, or at least hire out meteorologists. Are you aware of NASCAR having any meteorologists that work directly for them?
No, I'm not aware of any. Now, I think a lot of times it comes down to tracks, okay, or local municipalities. In some situations, in some big places, there's a meteorologist, be it a television meteorologist. Some tracks will hire out. I've heard that before.
Daytona 500 coming up. What advice do you have for fans who are going? What should they pack? What should they wear? What should they be prepared for?
You know, you're going to Florida. Take rain gear. I like to say if you bring rain gear, that's more insurance that you're never going to need it.
If there is a lightning strike or if lightning detection goes off, where do people go? Do they all have to just go back to their cars? Is there a place to shelter?
I think a lot of them try to get them into the concourse areas underneath the stands, out of the elements. You know, please. That's genuinely what I think they do. I haven't seen, and I think it is track by track. That's where a decision needs to be stepped in up ahead of time so that fans don't feel like they have to make that decision between watching the outcome that they paid for versus their own personal safety.
And head over to our YouTube page to go further in depth with Brian. He talks about some of the most dangerous weather events in NASCAR history. Very interesting. We've also linked his handle there so you can get live weather updates for the race on Sunday. Just search the National Weather Desk and be sure to subscribe while you're there. High surf and heavy rain are forecast for California in the coming days. Rich Rodriguez spoke to local park officials about why this round of wet weather is forcing them to close local parks and beaches.
Oceano Dunes is the last beach in California that allows you to drive down to the water. But to get there, you have to cross Arroyo Grande Creek. When the water level in the creek reaches 12 inches, state park rangers are required to stop vehicle traffic.
Normally that creek is dry. It's not even running. But during the very rainy seasons, we get a lot of water that comes out of there.
What also feeds the creek is water from Lopez Dam. It provides drinking water for the area. Sudi says Lopez Lake is at capacity, and water is being released ahead of big storms in the forecast.
That release of water, forecasted rains and high tides, makes it very hard for state park operations to keep the park open due to that 12-inch rule.
People come from all over California and even Nevada to enjoy Oceano Dunes. While the week-long cancellation on camping reservations will upset some people, Sudi says safety comes first.
They're getting stuck in 3 inches of water, let alone 12 inches of water. And so state parks can't tell if it's going to necessarily, it's hard to forecast. Is it going to be 12 inches or is it going to be 3 feet?
Due to high surf and heavy rain in the forecast, campgrounds will be deserted for the next week.
You've probably heard that people can tell when a storm is coming because their joints hurt. So is there science to back that up, or is that just a sixth sense? Irina Plunkett went searching for the answer.
For the last 20 years, Lynette Hall has been living with a sort of sixth sense.
I feel it before it even gets here.
It's what she likes to call her gauge before a storm, a pain in her joints that tells her that inclement weather is coming.
Whenever it starts aching, I know something is getting ready to change. And it normally happens in the wintertime, not so much in the summer.
It's an ailment that keeps chiropractic doctor Melissa Peroti's business booming when the weather strikes.
It's always a lot busier on your tummy if you're okay with that, with a lot of people very flared up right before a storm.
She says she can almost forecast what her 40-plus-year-old patients at her Reno clinic are stopping in for.
I feel like when it's very, very dry and then a very wet storm comes in, that's when we see the biggest uptick in our patients in their joint pain.
An observation that tracks. In 2015, an Arthritis Foundation study found among 810 people with osteoarthritis, when the humidity and temperature went down, that had a significant effect on joint pain. Pain was more intense the colder the temperature was. Although not peer-reviewed, the study is backed by Harvard Medical School. Dr. Peroti theorized the pain is likely to be caused by atmospheric pressure changes. Several other organizations support that theory, like Direct Orthopedic Care, who says, quote, lower air pressure pushes less against the body, allowing tissues to expand. Expanded tissues put pressure on joints and cause pain.
Sturgeon spearing season is a big deal in Wisconsin, but anglers say this season has been one of the slowest in history. Experts blame the warm winter this weather season. Eric Peterson has more.
The sights and sounds of the season. Spearer Gary Kidrusky says the frozen surface on this part of Lake Poygan has his attention.
Ice is booming and banging. Today must be warming up with the sun. And there's cracks, but there's 8 inches of ice. You just got to watch where the hell you're going.
The season on the upriver lakes is different than the one on Lake Winnebago. Moronic says the upriver lakes are shallow and typically have clearer water than Winnebago, putting the spearer's success rate at about 62% compared to about 9% on Winnebago. And that's not all.
There's a higher concentration of fish up here because the fish are basically staging in these upriver lakes to go upriver in the springtime for spawning.
On Monday morning, Gary Kidrusky brought this 27.7 52-inch sturgeon to the registration station at Indian Point. He and his wife have been spearing for about 45 years.
We were sitting there and our heater went out. Heater didn't work for a while. And we're in a tent, and the fish came through about 9 o'clock, and it was a peanut shot. He was in the middle of the hole going slow. I wish some of the other ones were that easy, but I'll take it.
And time now for a short break, but first we take in the views of a snowy Pennsylvania.
Well, a very good Friday morning, everyone. I'm meteorologist Andrew Buckmichael. Differing weather across the area. We got snow across the Ohio Valley, but northern plains, it's going to be cold there. High temperatures in the teens with some sunshine. The sunshine tries to spread a little bit more for Saturday with some lake effect snow across the Great Lakes. And by the time that we get to your Sunday, look at all the sunshine we've got on the way. It's going to be a little chilly for us, a little warmer to the south with some 50s on the way. But all in all, more sunshine by the time we get to Sunday.
Good morning, I'm meteorologist Alex Garcia. Here's a look at your regional weather. A little cooler for the Texas Panhandle, but pretty warm down toward the south. Rain already creeping back into South Texas. Cold air getting ready to move into Oklahoma, into Arkansas. Could see some big showers there, maybe a little freezing rain. Lots of rain down for South Texas. Otherwise, temperatures warmer to the south, cooler to the north. I'm meteorologist Alex Garcia. That's a look at your regional weather.
Well, hi, everybody, in TGIF. I'm meteorologist Shannon O'Donnell. Out west, it's appropriately cold again near the Continental Divide with highs just in the upper 20s today out of Missoula. Denver at 40 degrees, but expecting some snow to roll into the Mile High City and especially the surrounding mountains later today. 64 through the Golden Gate Bridge. Here's the next weather maker that will drop that snow back into the Four Corners region as we head into President's Day weekend. And that's the scene from here.
Weather Window, presented by the National Weather Desk.
Sand dollars were plentiful along South Carolina's Sullivan's Island. They're a species of burrowing sea urchins found in warm zones along all the continents. Cross-country skiing in Montana is great exercise, especially when trying to keep up with your best friend Stella. And here's a great shot of this week's waxing crescent moon. The first quarter moon arrives at 10 o'clock this morning.
For more content like this, follow the National Weather Desk on TikTok.
Well, many people believe the coldest time of day to be is in the evening or late night, but the coldest time of day is actually the early morning. And meteorologist Natalie Walters explains why on TikTok.
Why is the morning typically the coldest time of the day? Well, a simple answer is that during the day, the sun is heating the Earth's surface and it gets warmer. Once the sun sets, we stop receiving that radiation, and all of that radiation that's at the Earth's surface then starts to escape up into space. So the coldest time of the day is going to be right after sunrise, once all of that heat has escaped before the sun starts heating the surface again.
Really interesting. For more content like this, be sure to check us out on social media. Just search the National Weather Desk. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Amira David. Make it a great Friday. Have a wonderful weekend, and we will see you right back here on Monday.